live in interesting times. Today's stories. The WHO says coronavirus peaked in China, but could trigger a global pandemic. The WHO says speed is everything as virus spreads in Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. Peru's foreign minister says Lima Group continues its push for democracy in Venezuela. Ailing Iranians suffer as sanctions hit medical supplies. Colombia launches a military offensive against drug expansion in national parks. The United Nations warns of a bloodbath risk in northwest Syria. Clinton calls President Trump, quote, a danger to democracy at the Berlin Film Festival. Julian Assange's lawyer announces that security service in Ecuador embassy spied on behalf of the United States. Gloria Aldred says women were believed as the jury delivers a guilty verdict. Plus, for EBC Travel, Manila Landmarks, a quick tour. And for EBC Sports, fans celebrate the life of Kobe Bryant during his memorial at the Staples Center in Los Angeles. This is Eagle News, coming to you from New York, bringing you stories from around the globe, and I am Jennifer Polentan. The World Health Organization on Monday said the new coronavirus epidemic had peaked in China, but warned that a surge in cases elsewhere was deeply concerning, and all countries should be prepared for a potential pandemic. WHO Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said the peak in China occurred between January 23rd and February 2nd, and the number of new cases there has been declining steadily since.
For the moment, we are not witnessing the uncontained global spread of this virus, and we are not witnessing large-scale severe disease or deaths. Does this virus have pandemic potential? Absolutely, it has. Are we there yet? From our assessment, not yet. First, all countries must prioritize protecting health workers. Second, we must engage communities to protect people who are most at risk of severe disease, particularly the elderly and people with underlying health conditions. And third, we must protect countries that are the most vulnerable by doing our utmost to contain epidemics in countries with the capacity to do it. This is a shared threat. We can only face it together, and we can only overcome it together.
We're still trying to avoid that reality, we're still trying to avoid that eventuality, and countries are having success in doing that. So let's focus on what we can do and what we need to do, which is prepare. When we mean prepare to detect cases, prepare to treat cases, prepare to follow contacts, prepare to put in place adequate containment measures. It's not 100 different measures. There are probably 5 or 6 key interventions, and the Director General outlined them in his speech.
An acceleration of cases in other parts of the world has prompted similar drastic measures. Italy has locked down 11 towns, and South Korea ordered the entire 2.5 million residents of the city of Daegu to remain indoors. It also caused falls of more than 3% in several European stock markets, with Milan plunging 5.4%, and a boost for safe haven gold amidst fears the epidemic could have spread global economic recovery. The spread of the disease, officially known as COVID-19, continued unabated, with Afghanistan, Bahrain, Iraq, Kuwait, and Oman announcing their first cases on Monday. China also continued its preventive measures against the virus, on Monday postponing its agenda-setting annual parliament meeting for the first time since the Cultural Revolution in the 1960s. The World Health Organization warns countries to be ready for a potential pandemic as new deaths and infections in Europe, the Middle East, and Asia triggered more drastic efforts to contain the new coronavirus. Bruce Allard, leader of a joint WHO-China mission of experts, said speed is everything, and that the measures China implemented have prevented the infections of hundreds of thousands of people.
But the single biggest lesson is speed. Speed is everything. And you know what worries me most, sorry I didn't catch your name, but what worries me most is has the rest of the world learned the lesson of speed? We have outbreaks in multiple countries right now increasing at exponential growth rates, and you've seen what that does. This is the difference between getting on top in every other area and exponential growth in one area. It's devastating. The most important message is don't be complacent as cases decline. That's the bottom line. A huge part of the world and China is still susceptible to this virus. It's a new virus, so people don't have immunity to it. So cases have gone down, but there's still a lot of people who are vulnerable, and it's gone down through a massive effort. It can come back up, and it will require really rapid work again. And sometimes when we're used to dealing with the virus, we get complacent. It's as simple as that, and that is always the single biggest risk. The investments that are being made in hospital beds, ventilators, in vaccines, it has to continue because, as Dr. Liang said, this is a tricky and dangerous virus, and complacency is the single biggest risk. Thinking you've beaten this virus is the single biggest risk. So the last point on China is where next, as these numbers come down, because it is already starting to bolster its economy again, reopen schools in the near future, maybe some weeks, but obviously they want to get society back to a more normal semblance of what's the best way to put this? Probably the new normal, because this virus may be around, we were talking today, Dr. Liang and I, for months. That brings us to the last point in terms of the global response. We will gain a bit of time, but we have to be using that time better than we are today. In this country, outside, we have long lists of research projects and studies, but we've got to prioritize those things that could get the knowledge we need to stop this faster and the tools we need to reduce the morbidity and mortality.
Meanwhile, the Lima Group will continue to push for the return of democracy in Venezuela, says Peru's Foreign Minister Gustavo Meza Kudra during a press conference in Lima. Take a look.
El objetivo principal del Grupo de Lima sigue siendo el retorno de la democracia en Venezuela y obviamente eso implica que nos mantengamos firmes en las medidas que hemos adoptado en contra de los personeros de ese régimen ilegítimo. Podemos llamarla cruzada internacional para asegurar que se logre pronto en Venezuela unas elecciones presidenciales libres y transparentes. Nosotros mantenemos magníficas relaciones de trabajo con el secretario general Almagro, pero tenemos diferencias en cuanto a la aproximación de alguna de sus políticas, y eso me parece natural. El candidato nuestro ha señalado áreas de trabajo en las que podría poner énfasis. Esto no es solamente para atender a la población venezolana que se ha radicado en los países y ayudarlas a su integración, sino también a los países, a las poblaciones de los países de acogida que se han visto impactadas en una serie de elementos que han sido muy comentados, como el tema de algunos servicios que han colapsado, en el caso de educación, salud.
In other news, Iranians have been suffering from scarce medicine supplies even before the new coronavirus broke out in the central city of Qom and spread, claiming lives and fostering panic amidst a shortage of face masks. Shortages began after the U.S. pulled out of a landmark nuclear deal, reimposed crippling sanctions on Iran in 2018. Spokesman of Iran Health Ministry, Hanoush Jampour, blames what could be the U.S. involvement in pressuring companies into halting business transactions with Iran.
ما مطمئنیم و مدارک و شواهد متقنی داریم که در طی یک سال گذشته دولت ایالات متحده مستقیم و غیر مستقیم، رسما و حتی غیر رسمی، علنی و پنهان، شرکت‌های مختلف و بانک‌های مختلف رو تحت فشار قرار داده که تبادلات مالی در حوزه دارو و تجهیزات پزشکی به سمت ایران حتی المقدور انجام نشه و ایران رو، در حقیقت مردم ایران رو تحت فشار قرار بده. این رفتار مثلا ما در مورد بیماری پروانه‌ای یا ایبی به طور خاص یک شرکت سوئدی که تامین کننده پانسمان‌های مورد نیاز این بیماران بود و تقریبا جزء تولید کننده های انحصاری این نوع پانسمان در دنیا هست، تحت تأثیر و فشارهای ایالات متحده متاسفانه این رو مستقیما در اختیار ما نمیذاشت و قاعدتاً بسیاری از بیماران ما در این یک سال از دسترسی ناکافی به این پانسمان ها آسیب دیدن. با استفاده حد اکثری از توانمندی‌های داخلی که ظرف 3-4 دهه اخیر در کشور فعال شده، امروز توان تولید بیش از 97% داروی مورد نیاز کشور رو داره و ما تنها 3% در حوزه دارو وارد کننده هستیم که قاعدتاً در مورد داروهای جدید و های تک هست و یا داروهایی که مصرف اونها به نوعی محدود هست و ممکنه که تولید اونها در داخل کشور مقرون به صرفه نباشه. قاعدتاً
الان بیشتر مشکل ما رو داروهای وارداتیه. داروهایی که به صورت کامل پک شده از خارج از کشور وارد میشه، الان با کمبود شدید مواجه، یه پارت میاد یه پارت نمیاد و این باعث شده که خیلی از مریض ها برای تهیه داروشون دچار مشکل بشن.
والا من از صبح دنبال انسولینم. بیمارستان میدون هورم بودم، یعنی داروخونه اونجا بودم، نداشته، گفته بیا 13 آبان، اومدم اینجام نداره.
انسولین، داروهای سرطان با انسولینم 3 روزه دارم میگردم ولی پیدا نکردم. الانم 4 ساعت تو راه بودم تا رسیدم اینجا، 3 ساعت دیگه هم نوبتم میشه.
Colombia's defense minister, Carlos Holmes Trujillo, says the military will set up an offensive against drug trafficking groups responsible for clearing thousands of hectares of protected national parks for coca plantations.
Quienes hoy promueven los incendios son delincuentes que quieren destruir bosques y envenenar ríos para sembrar coca. Está plenamente establecido que el narcotráfico, la extracción ilícita de minerales y la deforestación, con las cuales se financian los grupos armados organizados, son las principales amenazas a nuestro medio ambiente. Nuestras Fuerzas Armadas no retroceden. Estamos en todo el territorio nacional y vamos a endurecer la ofensiva militar para sacarlos de sus madrigueras. La fuerza pública no se va a retirar de las zonas de los parques nacionales naturales donde los criminales pretenden asentarse. No habrá santuarios del crimen a donde nuestra fuerza pública no pueda llegar. Allí, donde estos criminales prendieron fuego, queda una zona estratégica, pues confluyen los ecosistemas de la Amazonía, la Orinoquía y la zona andina. Hay especies únicas de fauna y flora que son ricas.
Up next, the United Nations warns of a bloodbath risk in northwest Syria. Clinton calls Trump, quote, a danger to democracy at the Berlin Film Festival. Julian Assange's lawyer announces that security services in Ecuador embassy spied on behalf of the U.S. Gloria Aldred says women were believed as the jury delivers a guilty verdict. Plus, for EBC Travel, Manila Landmarks, a quick tour. Eagle News will be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is Eagle News coming to you from New York. The United Nations said on Monday, fighting in northwest Syria is coming dangerously close to encampments with around 1 million displaced people, risking an imminent bloodbath. Mark Cutts, the UN Deputy Regional Humanitarian Coordinator for Syria Crisis, also said the UN was trying to double aid deliveries across the border coming from Turkey from 50 to 100 trucks a day.
It's an extremely alarming situation because if airstrikes and shelling move any further into that area, we are no doubt going to see a real bloodbath, a real massacre of civilians in that area. But the crisis really demands immediate action from the Security Council, from member states around the world, because this is a crisis now on a scale that we've not seen throughout the entire Syrian war. This is the biggest single displacement that we've seen throughout the Syrian war. We've seen more than 1,700 civilians killed in the last year. And those are just the numbers that have been verified, documented and verified by the United Nations. So we are extremely concerned about the continuation of this humanitarian operation cross-border from Turkey. The whole world can see how important this lifeline is. This is an important corridor where we've been supplying vulnerable civilians throughout the last few years. The needs in the last few months have gone up, they have not gone down. And so it's absolutely vital that we maintain this humanitarian corridor and that we have a Security Council resolution that allows the United Nations and other humanitarian actors to continue to operate across border from Turkey.
A months-long offensive by Russia-backed Syrian troops against rebels backed by Turkey in northwest Idlib has seen hundreds of thousands of people flee the violence. As a result, the escalation, Quds said the UN was revising up its funding appeal for the crisis from $330 million to $500 million, adding that 3 was a shortfall of about $370 million. Quds said the UN sent 1,200 aid trucks into the area in January and said dispatched 700 more so far in February. Quds also said aid workers were overwhelmed. Some warehouses had been looted and the fighting had damaged some 77 hospitals and other medical facilities. Hillary Clinton on Monday denounced President Donald Trump as a danger to democracy and defended her scathing comments about former rival and Democratic primary frontrunner Bernie Sanders. Clinton also warned that Russia would once again try to influence the presidential election in 2020 and said she would back any candidate taking on Trump. She told journalists at the Berlin Film Festival, where a new documentary about her life was being screened, quote, "I will support the nominee of our party because I think that our current president is a clear and present danger to our democracy and to our future." Yet she refused to endorse any specific candidate, saying she would leave that to the voters. The documentary has grabbed headlines for caustic remarks Clinton made about Sanders, who took pole position in this year's race with a key win in Nevada on Sunday. She says in the 4-part film, quote, "Nobody likes him. Nobody wants to work with him. He's got nothing done. He was a career politician."
Well, we know it's already a problem. I mean, that's what just happened in America. The intelligence community reported that the Russians are back in our cyber systems and trying to influence the outcome of the primary and also still trying to support Trump. There is no debate. Anybody who tries to deny it is living in a dream world, and it's a sad dream world because we're letting our defenses down. Politics is a contact sport. I mean, people say all sorts of things because they certainly have said all sorts of things about me. I'll support the nominee of our party because I think that our current president is a clear and present danger to democracy and to our future. Well, I think that the documentary does an excellent job in looking at my personal and my public lives. I think the director, Nanette Burstein, was very effective in doing that. And part of it is, having someone who you admire and believe is honorable and honest, like Nanette, to do the film, because I think it's important to tell the real story and not allow a lot of the myths and the crazy, stuff that goes on to be in any way taken for the truth, because it's not.
Following Julian Assange's extradition hearing in London, his defense lawyer, Baltasar Garzón, announces that the security services in the Ecuadorian embassy, where Julian Assange had lived since claiming asylum, have been spying on his client on behalf of the United States intelligence services. Garzón said there is a clear political persecution of Julian Assange.
Está quedando probado y manifiesto que la compañía de seguridad que daba vigilancia y custodiaba la embajada de Ecuador en Londres ha espiado a favor de los servicios de inteligencia norteamericanos a Julian Assange, a sus abogados defensores, entre los que yo me encuentro, así como a las distintas personalidades. Todo ha sido grabado de una forma absolutamente invasiva para la intimidad. Colocación de micrófonos, colocación de vídeos, todo esto está quedando probado ante la justicia española y también está siendo presentado en este momento de la extradición. Creemos que está demostrado, y así se probará en esta extradición, que hay una clara persecución política para Julian Assange.
Julian Assange's lawyer claimed Monday the United States' bid to extradite him is part of President Donald Trump's war on leakers and journalists, as the WikiLeaks founder full extradition hearing opened in Britain. Assange faced charges under the U.S. Espionage Act for the 2010 release by his anti-secrecy website of a trove of files detailing the realities of U.S. military campaigns in Afghanistan and Iraq. He spent much of the past decade holed up in Ecuador's London embassy to avoid separate legal proceedings in Sweden, but Washington is now seeking his transfer to stand trial. His lawyer, Edward Fitzgerald, argued the charges were politically motivated and that the U.S. had reserved a 2013 decision not to charge Assange because Trump wanted to make an example of him. He said, quote, President Trump came into power with a new approach to the freedom of the press, amounting effectively to declaring war on investigative journalists. Fitzgerald said his client was, quote, the obvious symbol of all that Trump condemned, and that charging him for publishing state secrets were unprecedented. He said, quote, the prosecution is being pursued for ulterior political motives and not in good faith. It is directed at him because of the political opinions he holds and that have guided his actions. Assange sat impassively inside Woolwich Crown Court as a lawyer for the United States accused him of risking the lives of intelligence sources by publishing classified U.S. government documents. Making the U.S. government case, James Lewis denied it was motivated by embarrassment over the WikiLeaks release and warned him over the harm caused by his disclosures. He said, quote, the United States is aware of sources whose unredacted names and/or other identifying information was contained in classified documents published by WikiLeaks, who subsequently disappeared. However, he noted the United States could not prove that their disappearances were directly linked to WikiLeaks. Lewis said, quote, Julian Assange is no journalist. In other news, attorney Gloria Aldred tells reporters that Harvey Weinstein's guilty verdict marks the age of empowerment of women, that you cannot intimidate anymore. The disgraced movie producer was convicted of sexual assault and rape, but cleared of predatory sexual assault charges. Speaking outside the courthouse in New York, Aldred was also questioned about Prince Andrew, whom she believes should talk to the FBI in the Jeffrey Epstein case.
Well, I just heard that his attorney said that he was shocked. And he was surprised by the verdict. Well, he shouldn't have been surprised. It's no longer business as usual in the United States. This is the age of empowerment of women. And you cannot intimidate them anymore, because women will not be silenced. They will speak up. They will have their voice. They will stand up and be subjected to your small army of defense attorneys cross-examining them, attempting to discredit them. Justice has been a long time coming, but it's finally here. And it's not the end, because LA is still going to proceed. And I believe that will happen after the sentencing, that he will be quickly going to Los Angeles, and we're looking forward to seeing him there. And now that the verdict has come back guilty for Harvey Weinstein, I will say once again, women were believed. That's Prince Andrew needs to start by talking to the FBI. It's not an accident that was on a school bus, because it's about children with Jeffrey Epstein. It is sex trafficking of underage girls. So my message is, it's time to step up to the bar of justice, or at least talk to the FBI. Say what you know.
Travel correspondent Alfred Asenas recently visited Manila, Philippines, and took the time to do a quick tour of some of the city's historic landmarks. Take a look.
Our first stop was Binondo, the city's Chinatown located across the Pasig River opposite from the walled city of Intramuros. Established by the Spanish colonial government in 1594, it would become a permanent settlement for Chinese and other immigrants. In the early 20th century, Binondo became a financial hub consisting of commercial banks, insurance firms, and other such institutions from Europe and the United States. These establishments were located mostly along Escolta, which used to be known as the Wall Street of the Philippines. But after World War II, most businesses began to relocate to sprawling areas outside Manila. Upon arrival, Binondo already looked like a city within a city. But don't be fooled by its outward appearance filled with narrow streets and constant noises by vehicles and merchants. For those craving for things Chinese, some of the best cuisines are still located right here and at very reasonable prices. We later crossed the Pasig River and visited the Manila Central Post Office building, the centerpiece of the country's postal services. Completed in 1926, it was destroyed during World War II in 1945, but was immediately rebuilt a year later. The Central Post Office is located across a famous plaza, the Liwasang Bonifacio, complete with a statue of revolutionary hero Andres Bonifacio, along with a colorful fountain and plenty of green space for friends and families to get together. The post office building was considered as the grandest during its heyday and is still considered a dominating landmark in Metro Manila, especially at night. Our final stop was Jones Bridge, which was once called Manila's Queen of Bridges. In 1916, the U.S. government, which back then occupied the Philippines, decided on a new bridge to replace an older one built by Spain. Formerly named the William A. Jones Memorial Bridge, it was built in honor of the statesman behind the Jones Law that paved the way to grant the Philippines temporary independence. Sadly, Jones Bridge was among numerous structures that were destroyed during World War II, but rebuilt in 1950. After a century of wear and tear, the city invested roughly the equivalent of $400,000 donated by Chinese Filipino businesses for rehabilitation, which involved relocating back sculptures at the entrance, as well as installing ornate lampposts, hundreds of small LED lights, and brightly colored paint, all to illuminate the structure and to connect the capital's two oldest communities in grand fashion that only the city of Manila knows how. Other attractions also worth visiting include Old Manila in Intramuros, Rizal Park, and Manila Bay. So, if you have the chance to visit the Philippines, take time to visit these iconic locations, all in the city of Manila. This is Alfred Acenas, Eagle News, always one with 25.
Thanks, Alfred. And now for EBC Sports. Thousands gathered in Los Angeles and millions watched throughout the world as the memorial for NBA legend Kobe Bryant was held at Staples Center. EBC correspondents Eva and Alan Basalahe were there and spoke to some of Kobe fans. Here's the report.
Nearly a month after the tragic helicopter crash which claimed the lives of 9 people, including Kobe Bryant and daughter Gianna,
a celebration of their lives takes center court at Staples Center in Los Angeles, California.
The UConn coach had a great speech. Michael Jordan was in tears, but he also made us laugh, which I'll always remember. You know, having my brother with me at this awesome event was really nice to experience together.
Today I actually kind of broke out and started crying a little bit. It's pretty emotional for me, you know, because I've been watching for like 20 years in my life.
Kobe meant a lot to everyone worldwide. So being here was honestly a blessing. You know, being able to get the tickets and be inside the Staples Center with all the Lakers fans was, or just not even Lakers, but fans of Kobe was amazing. He was loved by a lot more people than we realize.
All my best memories for Kobe. I was in elementary school fighting about him and LeBron and just his work ethic and just how to approach life. So that's how it affected me.
He's actually the reason why I fell in love with basketball. And until his death, I always thought I was a big-time Lakers fan, but I made me realize like I'm a bigger Kobe fan than I am a Lakers fan. So it really just opened my eyes that life is really short and we need to keep our loved ones close.
He was a great man, a great father, and just tears came to everybody's eyes in there watching as, you know, memories of Gigi and him and his family and the love he had for not only LA, but the family, the kids, the whole Staples Center that he built. Keep those that you love close to heart because you never know when today is going to be your last day.
I have 2 kids, and losing a kid, there's no words. There's no words that can describe it. And listening to Vanessa, and it has nothing to do as being a Latina, but it's like I identify with her.
When they talk more about Gianna and like how she wasn't able to live her life and like, you know, she could have been so much more. She had so much potential, and the fact that she didn't live to experience all that was like the biggest thing, you know, that really hit me.
NBA champion, Academy Award winner, and family man are just a few of the titles that Kobe Bryant held during his accomplished life.
Kobe's talent and hard work earned him a level of fame rarely seen, and in the eyes of those who admired him, one that won't easily be forgotten.
Neither too will the memory of Gianna, who at the age of 13 held more than just the game of basketball in her hands. In Los Angeles, California, Yvonne Allen, Eagle News. We are 1 with 25.
Thanks, Eva and Alan. That is today's Eagle News. Join us again tomorrow for stories that matter to you. Visit our websites at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/eaglenews and on Facebook at facebook.com/eaglenews. Thank you for watching. Jennifer Polentan, 1 with 25.